the customers have. So and then I told her that I would try to set one-on-one with my team members just to get to know them personally and to know where their headspace is at. And then from what she explained to me, there are so many people on one team. So I told her that I would try to like cut down on the team sizes. Like each team should have at least 8 to 10 people to make up a team. And then we can share the teams with the other Scrum Masters, because once a team start having so many people, communication gets difficult. When there are too many cooks in the kitchen, you get in the way of each other. So that was one of the ideas that I gave her. Another thing I told her was that as a Scrum Master, I will try to remove impediments, because she also made mention of shared resources. So I'll try to remove impediments. If we need to outsource, then we'll outsource. If we're sharing resources within the organization, then I want to be clear on dependencies, and the resources for sharing, we want to know the availability and make sure that they commit. And then I told her that I would like align my team members with the current product goal. Like for this one in particular, it was like working on a retirement fund. So I'll try to align my team members with that goal. Like we are not just working aimlessly, but what are we working towards? Like what is the goal? What are we trying to achieve? So everything about my team, I'm gonna try to align it with the product goal. And then I told her that I'll get my team members to participate in meetings, to speak up if they need help, since most of them are not very, from what I understood, they are not very skilled. So since there was a lot of confusion going on, everybody playing whatever role they choose to play. So I told her that to bring organization, I would just like to know where everybody's head is at, and whatever skill they're lacking, we try to make room to either make them shadow somebody, or give them the direction to go, or provide the necessary resources that they need to fulfill their job. And I also told her that in order for my team members to enjoy freedom, because nobody likes to be micromanaged. So in order for them to enjoy freedom, when they commit to anything, they should make sure that they meet up with their commitments. Because once you commit, I'll take you for your word. That's to build trust in the team. So if a deadline is approaching and you know you're not gonna meet up with that deadline, just like inform the team if you're needing help, if you're drowning, so that the team can come together and try to help you. Because if you just stay quiet and then you don't meet up with your deadline and then you don't deliver, that way you're forcing the hand of the team to start micromanaging your work. So those are some of the points that I can remember that I gave her.
That was a great answer from my point of view. I mean, you actually you went in depth in your answer, and what I would say you got the job. We have some we have some that was good. I want us to get some feedback from some seasoned Scrum Masters that are on here. Um, feedback is good.
I
From
can I can go.
Go ahead, Anuj.
So on the feedback, I think if they have presented that scenario that it's a very chaotic environment, they don't have time to train people, all they are doing is focusing on the delivery. So as soon as I get onboarded to that project team, the first thing as a Scrum Master I will do is to take over all the job duties that the developers are doing, all the Scrum Master duties that the developers are doing. So I will first take over those so that they can focus their time to, on their deliverables. So it will give them some more time to focus on their work. Meanwhile, I will start to talk with the product owners or the product owner, see what their pain points are and how can we streamline the process. I would like to understand how the information is being flown from one department to another. What are the teams that are involved, right? So kind of going through those pain points, understanding those pain points, and how I can come up with those uh, process improvements. I think that is something that I would do in the beginning, because if I say, hey, I will start to observe things, they may not like it considering the chaotic environment there. So first, I think we need to for the interview response, I think we need to give them some action items that we will be doing. Um, so that would be my response.
Thank you, Anuj. That was really
That
great.
was awesome, Anuj. Hey, can someone mute Dio?
That's-
He's snoring on the
No,
line.
it's not Tayo. I don't think it's Tayo. I just sent Vicky a private message. I think it's Olu.
Let's just try mute phones, our laptops, if you're not speaking. So we could.
No, but I think Olu will not be able to do it. I have a feeling he fell asleep. So that's why I asked Vicky privately if she could mute him.
Okay. All right. Okay, so these were great responses that we received so far. Awesome. Any seasoned Scrum Master want to give one more response before we move on to Ruth's next question? Maybe we could, I see somebody who joined the team last week and was very great. Hi, Mary, how you doing?
Hi.
Hi, sorry, I had to call you out. Any feedback for us based on the responses spread so far, Mary? Okay, I guess Mary is okay with the feedback so far. Did you move on to question number 2?
Okay, the second question was, how do you after a retrospective, how do you follow up on action items? Like, how do you make sure that what you decided in the retrospective, how do you follow through on it? That was the second question.
All right, action items. Action items and how you follow up on them as Scrum Masters. Anybody want to give a shot and try to answer this question? Maybe working Scrum Master could let us know how they follow up on action items.
I can go. Um,
Thank
we're
you,
not
Mary.
just second. Very loud. So how I do that personally is at retro, I make sure that we vote on at least one thing that we want to follow up on. And the reason for that is from experience, most times I realize when we have too much things that we want to follow up on at the same time, we might end up not doing any of those things. So if, say we have 4 action items and after retro, I encourage the team to vote. And then the one with the highest votes is what we try to work on. And we agree to work on it like from the next sprint, from the new sprint that we are starting. So sometimes the team comes up with maybe we need a new process for a particular release and that we've been having glitches. Sometimes we can decide to have that in the sprint, not like a story that we're story pointing, but just something that is visible to everybody to make sure that they see it every day as a reminder that this is something that we are trying to work on better this sprint. And then sometimes we can fix a time right at the retro and say, when we are having sprint planning, we have to do this, we have to involve this. And that's if he has anything to do with the team and sometimes maybe the external teams. Because the way we do our releases, we always have DevOps involved and DevOps are from other teams. So sometimes that's what we do. Just one thing, and if it is something that we are trying to change entirely, we come up with a plan like, let's try it for the next sprint. If it works, fine. If it doesn't, we're going to come back together as a team. And at another time, we have something called just like a board, like a backlog for action items. So we have all of those things, and it is still the same way we go through it, just, prioritizing and voting on them, and then taking the one with the highest priority, because we want to look at it, which one is more valuable, which one do we really need at this time. So the team are not frustrated that we just keep talking and talking every time I retro and nothing is getting done. So that's the way I go, and that's the way we've been working together as a team on action items from retro. I don't know if that answers the question.
That was great, Mary. I just learned something from you. Have a retro board. Awesome. Anyone else wants to try to answer? I can say that Mary actually really answered this question. Maybe if we all agree, we could move on to question number 3, or somebody else want to give a few points.
I can just add one point. I think Mary, she said everything that will answer this question. Having that backlog of action items. But the only thing that I would add is, as a Scrum Master, I will also do a time-to-time retrospective of just on the action items. So you have that backlog of action items. So I would show those action items from previous iterations to the team and just ask them, right, how are we doing on these action items? Are we still doing them, or have we stopped doing those? So I would just use that time to discuss with the team, just to follow up on those previous action items. If the team sees that, hey, maybe we have stopped doing this, let's start doing this now. So I will just, having a retrospective of just for action items follow up. So that is the only thing that I would add to Mary's answer.
Yes. Yeah, that's great. And we actually do that. Thanks for adding that. Yeah, that's a very good one. So always check in with the team time to time, just to make sure that, you're on track and we are doing what we said we were going to do. Thanks.
Excellent. A retrospective of action items.
Let me add something to that, please. Sorry, this is Rudolph. I'm driving, so one thing I'll suggest to my team as well is one team member, maybe the Scrum lead for the team, is going to monitor the actions within the course of the next sprint, that whatever action items we decided during the retrospective is followed up upon. I'm going to work closely with that person to have a better understanding, to make sure that the actual items are followed up. I just wanted to highlight that.
That was great, Rudolph. Yes, have somebody who kind of like owns and then facilitates that these these action items are worked on. That's great. Thank you, Rudolph. All right, I think we'll move on to question number 3. Ruth, is there a question number 3 for us?
Oh yeah, they asked me like 7. So I know they said, what is the difference between an acceptance criteria and the definition of done?
That's a good question. A good question. Acceptance criteria, definition of done. Sometimes it's confusing, but it's not confusing. So does somebody want to try?
I could try. And this might be a little bit too simple. Acceptance criteria is what the business has described as what it will, as the name implies, what they expect out of the ask in this case. And then the definition of done is that the outcome does achieve what the acceptance criteria articulated. That in a nutshell, that's what I would answer in the interview.
Thank you, Humphrey. Actually, you just explained it. Yeah. Who else want to give it a try?
I think that's basically it, but I added that for the acceptance criteria, it's something that we continuously review and continuously improve. And then the definition of done will be the correctness of the completed work. Just to add to what Humphrey said, because that's basically what I said.
Awesome. Let me add one more thing to acceptance criteria to is user story, and definition of done is actually the increment that is delivered at the end of the sprint. So all user stories. I also add that when I'm coaching my teams, that acceptance criteria is steps that you need to follow for user story to be considered done. So I'll know this is done when, then you just give the steps. Thank you, guys. Are we okay with this question? Does somebody want to add one more?
Can I add one more thing? This is Chanel.
Hey, Chanel, go ahead.
I want to add that the definition of, the acceptance criteria is per story, and the definition of done is for the whole sprint, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can I say something?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes.
Go ahead, Alamin.
Yeah, if you're answering that question, what they're actually looking at is what Chanel just said right now. So
Yeah.
whoever is listening, make sure you make sure that acceptance criteria is peculiar to a user story. That's what they are looking for in that question. Definition of done is to the increment. So part of definition of done could be acceptance criteria also. So if you answer that question, you have to specify that the acceptance criteria is for each story. That's what they want to hear. Thank you.
Okay. Shanine and Alami just took it right from my mouth.
Thank you, guys. That was awesome. Great contributions.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hey, Ruth, next question.
Next question. How do you use like Scrum metrics to like follow up on the effectiveness of your team?
Deep questions. Wow.
I was sweating, if I might just say.
I know.
Mary, you want to help us here?
Effectiveness of the team. So today, my team completed more than we committed into the sprint. And as soon as I saw that, I screenshot the Bundan chat to just share with them. I say, way to go, team. And it's the same way and when we are not doing well, so to say. So sometimes at stand up, I show that to the team and say, hey guys, this is how we're doing. So that's a metric that I'm trying to show to the team to let them see where we are at from the sprint goal and commitment. And maybe we're already in the middle of the sprint. And that way it brings up conversations as like, what is going on? Is there something we need to talk about? Are we still confident that we are going to be able to meet up with our sprint commitment? And from there, if there has been blockers or any impediments that have not been called out earlier or interruptions, we discuss about it. And most of the time it works because by the end of the sprint, we are always able to complete our sprint commitment. So that's one way. I use Bundan chats for my team. I use it very well and it's helpful. That's the one tool I can say that I use with the team. The other metrics are like with the stakeholders, and the other metric is the backlog health, and that's definitely before the sprint. So if I was asked that question, that's what I would say. That's how I use my metrics to help the team's effectiveness.
Thank you, Mary, for that answer. That was great. I just wanted to add something. You already said it, but mid-sprint, I always do like a made check-in with the team. I actually did one today. So today was fifth, day 5 of, restarting the sprint. So at stand up, after everybody goes through their plan for the day, and everything, before we leave, I'll be like, hey guys, can we just do just a check-in to see where we are since we are in the middle of the sprint. How do we feel? How are we feeling this sprint? Are we still confident that we're going to meet our sprint goals? On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, how do we feel? Then I pull up the sprint goals and then we go through them. And after they give a feedback, everybody will say, oh, we think we are 6, 7, or 8, to just check. And then after that, I ask, what are the risks that we see that will stop us from, meeting our sprint goal? Because a lot has happened from day 1 to day 5 now. And we try to identify those risks. Usually we have stakeholders on there. If stakeholders will be there to assist the team, to find ways to remove, those risks and stuff. So this is one other way to I try to work with my team. All right, does anyone want to add anything to this question? Any answer?
I also added that I use communication to make sure my team is effective. Like the health of the team member. When I say health, I mean like their working environment should be conducive for them. Like just check. Oh, basically that's what you just said. I'm sorry.
That's okay, Ruth. It's fine. All right. If everyone is comfortable, we can move on to the next question that Ruth has for us. Right.
They asked me what are the different types of dependencies and how do you identify and track them?
Good question. Any working Scrum Master want to try to give us an answer to this question?
Well, I can give my answer and you guys can give me the feedback.
Go ahead, Ruth.
I said for the different type of dependencies, from what I know, you have like inter-story dependencies, like when one story depends on another for it to be completed. For another one, I said there's interdependency between Scrum teams. Like we need, for example, Scrum team A might need to get something done before the other, let's say Scrum team B can get their own work done. And then I said there was dependency during release as well. We might need another team to complete their work so that like, how can I put it? Like maybe the completed work of both teams need to be put together like before the release can be done. I don't know how to really go in depth with that. I think I read that somewhere. And then for the ways to identify and track, I said you use story mapping. It increases your visibility. Like for example, if I said my team uses the Jira board, like when the Jira board is there, you can see who has done what is still in progress, what has been done, what is still to be started. So just the visibility of that board, it it helps you. Another thing that I said that my team use is that we use the Miro bot. It really helps you outline those dependencies. Like it shows you what a team needs from you or what you need from another team or maybe an outsource. So that was one of the tools that I said we use. And then I said another way for my team to identify and track dependency is by doing the backlog prioritization. Like always talk with the PO and make sure that you outline the action items that are of utmost importance, like what needs to be done first. You want to prioritize them in order and make sure that you follow up with the most pressing things. And then I said another way is like Scrum of Scrums, meet up with other Scrum masters, um, talk what's new or what you need, what you might be needing from the other team. Through those kind of meetings, you always identify your dependencies. And then the sprint backlog, that's also something that your team can use to identify and track, because you see the you see action items on the sprint backlog that needs to be worked on, and it kind of like outlines to you um it kind of like outlines to you what your dependencies are, like what you need from maybe another team as well. So that was the answer that I gave. I don't know if anybody has any feedback.
I can talk about it. So I think the most important thing that which you talked about in the last was doing in that during in the sprint backlog. So would it be better if you say, you know, doing in the tool, whether it's Jira or Rally or something else, right? So these tools help to define those dependencies within your user stories. So if you have dependencies within your team, you can define that. If you are dependent with other teams, uh, you can also define that. So that is one thing. The second thing would be, how do you handle dependencies when you are dependent with the external vendors who are outside your company? You know, so for example, in my company, in my project, we are doing some data access patterns, and it's a new to the company. So we are working with the vendors who are not part of our company. So there is Savient, there is Okta. So I don't have any way to create those dependencies in these agile management tools. So in order to do this, we try to work with them through emails, try to bring them in our sprint planning, where we get some commitments, some timelines, and then having a way to be able to follow up with them on a regular basis so that we counter those dependencies. To make it visible, these dependencies, I also create these dependencies in the management tool. So we use Rally. So I put that in Rally as well, that, hey, this feature is dependent on this team. So I put that as a comment as well within the tool. So you have dependencies within the team, you have dependencies with other teams, as well as you might have dependencies with external vendors outside the company.
Um, just to add to what Anoj said, I think he said everything, like everything. Um, we can have story dependency, so that's just one thing I want to add. And the other tip I want to give is, when you're trying to answer questions like this at interviews, try and find a scenario to talk about. You see, while Anuj was trying to explain and he was trying to tell us what happens, in his workplace, it's more clearer. It sounds more genuine. So this is what I encourage everyone interviewing to do. From every scenario that you hear from here, try and listen and hone them when you're trying to interview, because questions like that might be very tricky to answer. But I think Anuj nailed it. I just wanted to add that it would always be good to add scenario to your answers when you're interviewing. And I think you did a good job too. But if you had that scenario, I know you probably wouldn't be sweating like that. But I think you give a great answer. That's my feedback.
Thank you for the feedback, Mary, and that was great, Anuj. And as Mary said, yes, when we are answering our interview questions, we should just try to tell a story. I always say, just tell a story, a scenario. It makes it more easier for you. That was great. Any other feedback from anyone before we go to the next question that Ruth has?
Just one more thing. So as a Scrum Master, you're always the person in charge of communication. And, I always say it, one way to handle dependency is to have conversations. So whether you have it externally, you have it in the team, you just want to understand what is going on and you want to see how it can be resolved. Or if you want to have time, like you cannot do all of this without having conversation. So another time you could just have that, I want to know where the dependencies are coming from. And then I schedule a time to talk to them. I've had to communicate with external vendors before, and then we didn't have their number. They were not responding to emails, but I had to start reaching out to everyone that I know could get me to get me closer to this person that we needed to talk to, because he was holding us down on moving forward for the other things that we needed to do. So communication is very important. So maybe it could be what they were looking for from the answer to that. I will just have conversation. If I want to understand where the dependencies are coming from, and then I will talk to the people in charge. It could be from another team. It could be, if it's from another team and they have a Scrum Master, you may want to reach out to the Scrum Master and say, hey, your story is blocking us, or, something that you're doing is blocking us. And then I just want to know how long it's going to take you. It could be like a manager or DevOps, wherever it's coming from. It's always conversation that helps. And then you bring that feedback to your team, and then you can know how to plan ahead from there.
Thank you so much for that, Mary. You just closed down that question with your last response. Thank you so much. Hey, Ruth, if you're good, can we move on to the next question, please?
So the next question I have here is, how do you motivate your team? How do you inspire your team? That's the next question.
All right. How do you motivate your team? Any working Scrum Master wanna let us know how they motivate your team?
I want to learn too. So
Yeah, so who wants to go, please? Come on, guys. I see Alamin is here. Chanel, Lady Ann.
I can try.
Go ahead.
One way you can motivate your team is again, you're the server leader. You are assisting them, with whatever did it. If you're an effective Scrum Master, you're enabling them to be self-directed. You're enabling them to kind of channel what direction they want to go. And so one way I motivate my team is to constantly ask them why. What is your why? Why are you here? Why would you want to perform at a certain level? And it's really about having them to kind of talk about what they really want out of, being on the team, to especially if they really do care, because most of my colleagues in general have always cared about the company which they work, and they want to do their best in the company. So you always try to bring out the why, especially when they're in a slump, to have them describe how they do find some satisfaction in their work and what would make it better, the one thing or the other that you can at least assist with and all. So that way I motivate my team.
Thank you, Humphrey. That was great.
Um, I will also agree with him. I would say letting the individuals understand the value that they're adding as a team, and letting them know that, you know, I guess letting them understand the product and what value that product is adding, either to the end user or to whoever. And I say also making sure that, you know, these individuals, you know, get happy hour, or like, you know, taking them out on team outings, making sure that, you know, it's not always just about work. There needs to be a balance.
Right. Thank you, Star. And to add to that, acknowledging the work that a team has done will go a long way to motivate them. Even the little things that you see, you in the daily scrum, and then, everybody speak up, you're like, oh, that was very good. Love the responses that everybody gave, acknowledging them, anything. Good job. Oh, great job. That was great. Good to know. I learned something new today. Oh, all those words. I don't know how to put it, but just giving them confirming the things that they say, acknowledging what they say. It goes a long way to motivate people. People like it when you tell them good stuff. It makes them happy and even makes them want to be able to open up. So that's my 2 cents. Anyone want to add
I
anything?
think Fola had her hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you everyone for great answers. I have a small question to to what we're creating now. So would award inspire them? Giving them award, would that inspire the team?
So I can answer that from the answer I wanted to give. So thanks everyone. I guess one or two things just now. So what I do, whether we do well or not, I try to encourage them. I try to ask them to think back to something they did very well in the sprint, whether the sprint was good or not, just so they know that whatever they were doing counts, whatever they are doing counts. It really counts. And then we could not achieve whatever we achieved if we didn't have that collaboration. So that's one thing that I do. And then to answer your question, Fola, because in Scrum, you don't want to encourage individual, like award or something. So, but like in my organization, we have something called recognize. So whenever we maybe finish a release or we did a good sprint, I go there, I put the names of all my team members. I say, hey guys, so it has different titles. So I can say, hey guys, congratulations on another release. We were able to do this because you guys, and all of that. So I do all of that. It sends them emails that, maybe recognized you, and people start congratulating them. And the other thing is buy them lunch. I buy my team food. Like I buy them lunch, I take them out, and sometimes at retro we do like let's just have coffee and have fun. You guys did well and you deserve it. Yeah. So that's what I do.
Thank you, Mary. Well, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so you guys explain now is a kind of appreciation. Is it the same thing as motivation? Like I feel like, or is it me that is not getting it? I don't know. Is it like the same thing, motivation, appreciation? Like how do you motivate your team? How do you appreciate your team? Because I feel like what you're trying to explain is kind of more application, like at the end of the break. This is what we did very well. Okay, how can we do better? I don't know. I'm just saying.
Hey, Khadija, it's hard hearing you. I don't know if it's me, but can anyone else hear what she said? Khadija, could you try putting your question in the chat? I'll just read it out. It was very hard hearing what you were saying. Hello?
I think she was trying to reference to the sense that what is the difference between appreciating your team versus giving them that validation
I think she was referencing to the point that Mary made, that sounds like doing stuff to appreciate them. What is the difference between that is motivate?
Yeah, so that was exactly what I was trying to say. That are they the same? Is it like the same thing, motivation, appreciation? Because I feel like what you guys are trying to explain is kind of appreciation and not motivation. I don't know. I'm just confused. Is it the same thing? Like, can we just answer the question like that?
Okay, so think of it this way: you're putting all your effort in something, you're working with a team of an organization, and nobody dares to say thank you. Or you think maybe the pay is not good, you won't be motivated. Okay, so both, I think, they work together. So you are motivating the team, making them realize that they are adding value every day, every time. We cannot do this without you. Yes, you are appreciating them, but at the same time, you are motivating them indirectly, because then they are happy getting up every morning to do what they're doing, because they know that, someone cares, because they feel like they're adding value. But if you make them feel like they're not doing anything, you can be demotivating them without knowing it. Does that answer you?
Yeah, very well. Now I get your explanation now. Like, by appreciating them, you're trying to motivate them to do more in the next. I get your answer now.
Anyone else can add, yeah, but that's
Another thing that I used during the interview, I feel like just keeping your team in sync with the Scrum values will also help motivate them. Um, Respect people's opinions. Like when people share ideas that they have, try to be open and respect their opinions, even if it's not correct. Try to listen, and then rather than telling them, oh, you have it wrong or it's not correct, you can show them a better way to do it, or gauge them towards the direction. So that's another thing. Like if you follow those 5 Scrum values, you should create trust in your team. Once your team members trust you, if they're struggling, they can easily open up to you. That's another way to motivate them. Um, and then what's the other value? Yeah, so I think I forgot what I said, but I used those values as well too, and the recognition thing as well also. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you for that, Rashida. You mean courage, focus, commitment, respect, and openness.
Yeah,
Those Scrum values.
yeah. So basically, if you align your team with all of those values.
Thank you, Ruth. If everyone is good, can we move on to the next question? All right, go ahead, Ruth.
So I think this is the second to the last question that they asked me. How do you like give me a typical day like in your team, like how retrospective is being carried out in your team? That was a question that they asked me. Like, what do you do? What activity? Like, what goes on in your retrospective?
what round of interview is this, Ruth?
Huh?
What round of interview is this? Is this like the third round?
No, this one is one and only. So after this, they're gonna give you your decision. It's not rounds.
Awesome. Okay. Wow.
All right, anyone want to try to answer this question?
There's so many people here, so I will let them go. Right.
Can I go?
Yes, please.
So I would say for my retrospective, we inspect and adapt on what we did last on what we did in the last sprint, what didn't go well, and how we can improve in the sprint. In this meeting, I encourage my developers to speak out, and then I give them the psychological safety that they need. I try to let them know what happens in here stays in here. I also make sure before I start the meeting, I have like an application that I use, like a retro mat. I try to bring out a sticky note and give them the sticky note and tell them, okay, from 1 to 10, how about the last sprint, or how comfortable were you in the last sprint, and then from there we can try to gather the data, and then we'll try to generate insight on what happens, and then we discuss on how and move. We can move better following on the sprints. This meeting also, I try to appreciate everyone's efforts, and then I also try to um, make them learn from our last sprint moving forward. And then sometimes I don't do my retrospective just the same way every time. I try to like give some kind of coffee retrospective just to bring fun to the retrospective. So we try to go out for coffee and like not an official settings, so everybody can have the safe environment and communicate very well. Yeah, that is how I run my retrospective.
Thank you for that, Khadija. I'm gonna read what I see in the chat. Actually, so all what you said, Khadija, will be summarized in what Anuj put in the chat, which is 1, you set the stage. 2, you generate insights. 3, find areas of improvement, and 4, action items. So basically, I think Khadija just in her answer was to hit on all these pointers that Anuj just gave. But that is the general of the retrospective. Anyone want to give any input? All right, it seems everyone is okay with the response so far.
I think we should get more people to speak. Who else? Because that can't just be the only way we do retro. So does anyone else wants to give it a try?
This is Chanel. I would just add something. I would just add that I know you just brought up action items, but I will also reiterate the action items that we talked about during the last retrospective, just to make sure that we accomplish all of the tasks that we set out to accomplish, just to make sure we're on track and that we don't just have action items with no actions behind them. So I would just touch on every action item and just make sure that we're making progress to the last retrospective's action item to show progress. Thank you.
That's a good point. Yep.
I know this type of question, they're probably just looking for a real life story. So I will just run through how I go through my retro. And I think everyone has said like the main things, but the other thing I just want to add is I will say like I have icebreakers. Every of my retro, I do icebreakers before we go to generate insights and gather data. So sometimes it's games, sometimes it's icebreakers. I call myself like I'm not a regular Scrum Master. When I'm interviewing, I like to say I am not like a regular Scrum Master. I bring fun to work. So, and that's one way, and that's one place where we have fun. And sometimes during my retro, while they are writing on the sticky notes, because sometimes I can say, I give you 10 minutes to fill this column. Let's say we are doing start, stop, and continue. And then we want to put sticky notes on start and continue and say 10 minutes. I have this music or jazz that I play in the background. And so it's not dull. And then everyone is having conversation and then we are talking and then we are doing that at the same time. And when we are done, I say, are we done? We can still keep doing it, but it's 10 minutes. So we'll start talking about it. Yeah, that's just what I want to add, just to make it look more real. So I hope that helps.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else want to run us through how they run the retrospective?
Yes, I think it would also help to actually talk about an action item that came out of your retrospective in your response. So if you talk about that example, give that example, I think that would also be very helpful.
Thank you, Anuj. All right, I guess that's all the responses we have for retrospective. Everyone has actually touched on all the pointers. So if it's okay, maybe we can move on to, I think this is the last question now, right?
Yeah, this is the last question they asked me. We already did tell me about yourself. So the last one I wrote down was, they asked me what they said, they're a software development company and they always have technical debt. So what is a technical debt and how do I how do I maintain a minimal amount? Like the interviewer said, there will always be a technical debt, but how do I maintain a minimal amount of technical debt? So that was the last question.
All right, thank you, Ruth. Who wants to answer this question?
Just quickly, technical debt is just like when you have shortcuts, when you use shortcuts to write the code. And so if I would answer that question, I would say we will review our definition of done. If the team has one, if they don't, we want to review the definition of done. And then we would say that all the stories must complete and all the checklists that we all agreed on before that story is done. So let's say the story needs to go through two PRs. It needs to go through QA. It has to fulfill all of those before we say it is done. Because those are some of the things that cause technical debt. Say you just write a story and you're putting it into done, and at the end of the day, you're releasing and now you realize that there are a lot of technical debt already. So most of the time, I think it's just about the definition of done. And so once you have a definition of done that the team is following, and then you try to enforce that together with the agreement of the team, that could reduce your technical debt drastically. So that's one answer that I would give. Other people can add to that.
I have a question in regard to that, but can't you still meet all the requirements of a definition of done and still accrue technical debt? Because that's what happens when you get technical debt. You still accrue it even though you follow the definition of done. Is that true or false?
So from
isn't technical debt like a story spillover or no? Or like bug fixing?
No, that's when you write crappy code, like when you just take shortcuts to write a code that's not written properly.
Okay.
So I'm not a developer, I wouldn't say, but from what I've learned and seen, if there are like definition of done that says story needs to go through review like 2 PRs, that helps to reduce technical debt, because if the developer wrote a crappy code, 2 other developers are checking to make sure that it was written well. So, but if a team does not have that, maybe the story just moved from in progress, to QA to done, they're already missing a lot. But if it goes through PR, then definitely two other people or more, depending. I know that two is common. At least two developers are checking that code. They're checking the steps. They are making sure that, there's not an oversight, that every step that needs to be written is done. And most of the time, you can have a colleague or maybe even a senior developer looking at that code for you. And then if they notice anything, they put in a note that that they call commits, and then you have to go work on it again. So that's why I said mostly, definition of done, if it's put in place, it might help. But and that's what I've had developers say too, and and from my experience. So to your answer, there can still be technical depth, but maybe it can be reduced if we have a proper definition. And because definition of done evolves. So if you're having a lot of technical depth, we just want to review what we have already and say, hey, why are we having this? And don't forget always, every time, the solution lies within the team. Most time I feel like they know what to do. You just need to provoke their thought to get to that point. So you might want to have that conversation, and then if they are not having direction, then you can say, hey, what do we have in our definition of done? Let's bring it out. Okay, if we do this and this and this, and then sometimes as a Scrum Master, you can share your experience and say, this is something that I've worked with a team and has worked. So do we want to try it? Why don't we try this? So for me, I think definition of done is a big thing because you're not a developer as a Scrum Master. So you can look at the code, you don't know whether it's crappy or not. But surely when there are technical depths, the team needs to have a conversation and work on how it can be reduced. They will know for sure.
And also, I think there are some technical depths that I wouldn't say it's bad technical debt, because maybe they're working to find a solution to do something, and there's no other way to do it, however, to do it this way, right? So with that, the team could go forward to finding the solution to what they're doing. Like, they're gonna go this way, but they would have to come back and pay that debt. So usually as a Scrum Master in these meetings, you always try to make sure your product owner captures these things, and also make sure those backlog, so that the team could always go back and then fix that shortcut that they use. So sometimes it goes both ways. Not all technical debts are bad. Some technical debts are planned based on what they're working. I just wanted to add that too.
Yeah. Thanks. But when it comes to technical debt, I find it interesting also because some organizations don't want to go back and rework the code because it takes time. So sometimes they just leave it until they don't want to fix it sometimes until they have to. And that can be an issue also. What does someone think about that? Like when it comes to technical debt, it's not something that they readily tackle.
Yeah, so can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes organization probably want to look away because, technical debt is expensive to actually work on them. But if you don't handle it, it's going to pile up, which is why sometimes it's advisable you have a sit down with the team and the product owner. So, determine how much of your capacity is going to be dedicated to technical debt, right?
Okay.
So, for example, remember you have buffer when you do your capacity. You might as well do 20%, dedicated to your, technical debt, or you all agree that, we're going to dedicate 70% to actual coding, then 30% to, reducing technical debt gradually. It's not a quick process. So you continue to look forward to reduce it by dedicating certain amount of your capacity to, reducing technical debt. That's why I know how they do it over time. Then you end up reducing it properly.
Great answers, everyone. Anyone have any thoughts, feedback, comments?
Maybe a comment. As Scrum Masters, we are also, you're also supposed to help the team in adopting these best practices, right? Like having frequent code reviews, having peer-to-peer reviews, having what's the word? Having if the team is using the test-driven development, things like these. So if we encourage these practices within the team, it also helps in minimizing the technical debt over time. For example, if you have frequent code reviews, if the entire team is participating, so all of these guys are helping each other in doing that code review. If they find out any bugs, they can straight away log that bug in the Git. They can comment it, so they can manage. And in this way, if the entire team will learn, right? This will also help in the team motivation that we were talking about, that you're learning from your peers, right? Your team members are appreciating how best you could have done, or you wrote a good quality code, things like that. So just that comment.
Thank you, Anuj. That was really helpful. Anyone else?